Welcome into the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles, thank you for making us a part of your Saturday morning. Alex, it's a big day. We have a conference championship on the line later today. That is a huge game. Utah State, San Diego State playing for the Mountain West title. It's a big day. I'm pumped.
It is a big day. It's a massive day. Obviously, it is the last chance that we'll see the Mountain West Conference in this version of what it is today. Obviously, you have all those teams that will be moving over to the Pac-12, so I think it's massive for Utah State to try to go out there and win that Mountain West Conference championship for the final time before they make the move over to the Pac-12. It's a big day in college hoops, too, across the country.
Yeah, man. It's been a while since Utah State has won the Mountain West. It's been a few years. I think 2020. Did they do it that year? I'm not sure if they did it because of COVID. Either 2019 or 2020. But no, I think it was 2020. Yeah, Sam Merrill. That's right. But the funny thing is, Utah State has played San Diego State this will be their fifth meeting in the last 8 or 9 years. So this is a very, very storied rivalry when you talk about the Mountain West basketball tournament. And it's been very fun to watch these teams go head-to-head several times, and it's always close, right? I saw some stats. We'll get into it later, but, of course, we have been underwater, with college basketball all week with the conference tournaments. BYU won a couple games. They ultimately lost to Houston, but I think, and we can touch on BYU a little bit. We're going to talk to Scotty G coming up here in about 10 minutes. We're going to talk to him about the Aggies. That game tips off at 4 p.m., by the way, Utah State, San Diego State. We're going to have the pregame show here on the Zone starting at 3:30, so stay tuned for that. But touching on the Cougs real quick before we get to Utah State, they won 2 games in the Big 12 tournament, and they were against teams that you would like to see BYU win, right? Kansas State and West Virginia. Then they get to Houston, and Houston's still alive. They're going to play for the championship today. That's a dang good basketball team, and you know what? BYU played them really good.
I was honestly pretty impressed with the way that BYU came out and played in this Big 12 tournament. Considering the way that they finished the season, Christian, I don't think a lot of people had maybe necessarily high hopes for BYU to play as well as they did. I was fairly impressed, obviously, with the performance that they put on against Kansas State. Kansas State's a team who had to fire their head coach earlier in the season, only had 12 wins on the year. So to see them kind of get into this shooting fest where you have to score 105 points to win that game, right? They scored 91. I thought, man, we're just going to have to see this BYU team completely outscore their opponents for the remainder of what this season is for the BYU Cougar basketball team. However, you turn that around to Wednesday's performance against West Virginia, and they played their best defensive game in a really long time, Christian.
Yeah.
They held that West Virginia team to just 23 points in the first half. They ended up taking that one 68-48. But I thought it was going to be another shootout the way we saw Tuesday against Kansas State. So I like the turnaround to be able to bounce back, look better defensively, and then I think they played that Houston team really tough, man. I don't know if a lot of people thought, and I don't know if a lot of people, thought that BYU was going to be able to take down Houston.
Yeah,
but I thought that they played them really well.
The fact that BYU was in the game at all towards the end, I think, I don't want to say was a surprise, but it wasn't what I was expecting, given the way that BYU had finished the regular season and how they looked against Houston earlier in the year and all of the things, right? It got to a point where I was asking myself, what really is the ceiling for this BYU team? And it's just a reminder, man, when you've got the high-end talent that the Cougars have with A.J. DeBonsa and with Robert Wright and some of these other guys, and you're starting to see some other role players step up. Kostick hitting some big threes, right? Like, this BYU team really can hang with the big dogs when they are engaged and playing to the best of their ability. Now, we don't see that very often. We haven't got that very often, and that's why we're asking the questions. But That's how good AJ is, right? And that's what matters. And I think ultimately the question is now, I don't care about the seeding. I'm not going to try and guess what seed they're going to be tomorrow. But now do you feel better about BYU after their performance in the conference tournament?
Yes, absolutely. I think, you're coming down the stretch. You lose to UCF. You lose to West Virginia in the regular season. You lose to Cincinnati, right? That 3-game losing streak to essentially close out the season right before you get the win against Texas Tech. During that stretch, I think that there was real doubt on my end that they would make it past the first weekend. We talked about it last week, Christian.
Yeah.
I thought that they wouldn't make it past the first weekend, but now I think that there is an opportunity if BYU is able to play teams as tough as they played Houston, as good defensively as they showed up against West Virginia. I think that there's possibility, and obviously too, depending on how the bracket shakes out, where the seeding is, and who they'll face. Right in that first round plus that second round, I think that there is potential for BYU to reach that goal of making it back to the Sweet 16, of making it back and potentially having that opportunity to compete in the Sweet 16. But I absolutely feel a lot better about this BYU team now than I did, at the end of February when they're in the middle of a 3-game losing streak.
Yeah. It got to a point where it's like, okay, can BYU win like 1 or 2 games in the NCAA tournament? And now, we're talking about a potential Sweet 16 appearance again. And I think that would definitely, I guess, be sort of a consolation prize for Cougar fans. And I mean that in the best way possible, right? Because as soon as Richie Saunders went down, you knew that was going to diminish your hopes of the Elite Eight, Final Four appearance that you had maybe thought the Cougars were going to reach.
Yeah.
With losing one of your top players, they just don't have the depth. They don't have the experience to do that without Richie. For how good AJ is, we saw Cooper Flagg lead Duke last year, but it wasn't just Cooper Flagg. They had 3 freshmen taken in the top 10 of last year's NBA draft, right? They had Con Knipple and Kaman Malawach, right? So it wasn't, for as good and as historic of a season as Cooper Flagg had, it wasn't just him. No matter how good your freshman is, they need help, right? So as soon as Richie went down, it's like, okay, this Cougar team is not going to go to the Elite Eight. But given how they have played, now it's like, okay, Sweet 16, we can maybe reach that again. So that will be really fun. We'll touch more on that in a bit, but we've got a conference championship to get to. And joining us to help break it all down, we've got the voice of the Aggies, Scott Garrard, the man who never sleeps, joining us from Las Vegas. What's up, Scotty?
Hey, gentlemen, how are you?
Good.
Oh, man.
Good.
Doing good. Exciting day.
Real quick, Scotty.
Yeah, no, this is fun. This is always, look, I know you guys are kind of new to this world, relatively new, but I'm an old veteran, and there's not a lot to get the juices flowing much anymore because it's just like you've been there and you've seen it. And I know that's a really callous kind of a old man way to look at things, but this one, and it's not just Utah State, it's just conference tournaments overall. I love conference tournaments. I've always been a huge fan. And then the NCAA tournament. This is as much fun as you'll ever be a part of, and I'm fired up. Should be a fun one today.
No doubt. And I think even if you're not like necessarily the biggest college basketball fan, I think everybody's tuning in at this time of the year to college basketball to watch these tournaments and to watch obviously the NCAA tournament next that starts up next week. But I want to start with let's start with Utah State, and I want to start with Mason Falslev and the season that he's had. Obviously, Mountain West Player of the Year. What does Mason Falslev do to make this team run for Utah State?
Well, he's Mr. Consistent, and that's, I think, what's been really important for him because he's never had to be the guy. There's always been somebody that's been kind of the leader of the team. He's always been a really good player, but you go back a couple of years ago, and it was Darius Brown and Great Osibor, and last year it was Ian Martinez, and so this was the first year where he was the singular face of this team, and that's a big role to take on as a player and as a leader in a locker room. Like, this is his team. And I don't know if that's necessarily part of his DNA to be that guy and be the rah-rah, take over a locker room kind of guy, but he's adapted to it and he's handled it very well. And when you're that guy, you're not really allowed to have a lot of off nights because everybody's looking to you for that leadership and for that example on and off the court. So he's been Mr. Consistent. And even nights when he's not scoring at a high level, like last night wasn't a big scoring night, but he was doing everything else. He was getting rebounds. He was dishing out assists. He was playing tremendous defense. And so, yeah, he's just been the consummate pro, the consummate teammate this year for Utah State that they've desperately needed.
What I love about Mason Falslev is he's a Cache Valley kid, Skyview High School, and he's stuck around there. It's no secret that, every offseason people are trying to poach him from the Aggies. That's something that they're always having to put up with, right? But he's stuck around, and through several different coaches, right? He committed to – did he commit to Craig Smith or was it Odom?
Yeah, no, he originally committed and actually signed at University of Utah and with Larry Kraskowiak.
Okay.
And then while he was on his mission, Kraskowiak got let go. And then but at that point, Craig Smith was taking the Utah job. So he then commits to Ryan Odom. And so, yeah, it's,
But he's stuck around, right? He's stuck around.
Stuck around, yep.
What does that say, I guess, when Utah State's kind of looked at as this stepping stone program, right? And every year, whether it's going to be Mason Falslev or players like Adlon Elamine who are going to have to fend off potential suitors, what does it say for the Aggie program to have a star player like Mason Falslev stick around? And, I mean, he's played there for 3 years now.
Well, and I think what's really key in this, too, is the fact that you mentioned he's a Skyview kid. So he knows the Valley, and they joke about him being the mayor, but in reality, I mean, he essentially is. The dude could run for office tomorrow and probably win in a landslide. And so, but when you're walking in the tunnel by the locker rooms in the Spectrum, they've got this big wall, and it's got massive, like, life-size photos of Neemias Queta as Sam Merrill, Justin Bean, all these, Spencer Nelson, and all these great Aggie legends. And I think that means something to Mason to one day have his poster up on there. And if he were to leave, after last year or even after this upcoming year, he probably doesn't get a poster up there. And that's something that I know that Spencer Nelson takes his kids to, and they point up and say, like, hey, yeah, your dad was actually a player, and all these guys like going back and seeing, like, yeah, this is what your old man did back in the day. And that means something to Mason. Now, look, also what means something to Mason and to all of us are dollar bills. And make no mistake, the Barbarians are going to be at the gate for Mason Falslev, and deservedly so. Utah State is paying handsomely for him this year, and they're going to have to step it up considerably going into next year. I mean, it's not as if Mason Falslev came back for nothing. Like, Mason's doing pretty well right now. But can he do a lot better? Sure. And is Utah State going to have to up the ante going into next year? For sure.
Craig Smith, Ryan Odom, Danny Sprinkle, Jared Calhoun. That's been the last couple of years for Utah State men's basketball.
Yep.
But yet they've been able to find consistent success. They're pulling off great seasons. They're making NCAA tournament appearances. They're developing great players like Mason Falslev throughout those course of those years. What's the secret behind that continued success, right? You think that after a coach leaves, maybe there'd be a little bit of a drop-off, but they've been able to continuously do it year in, year out with different head coaches at the helm. What's the secret to the culture up there in Logan to have that continued success for Utah State?
You want to know what the easy answer is?
What is it?
This guy right here. I'm here.
The one consistent. The voice of the Aggies.
Absolutely.
Players come, coaches come. I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere, folks. No, it's like, honestly, when you go up to Utah State, and I'm partial, I'll admit it. I'm an alum, and so I have a close affinity for the program. But when you step onto that campus, it feels a little bit different. It's not a commuter school. Everybody's right there on top of you. Those small town schools just have a little something to them. And I think players feel that. And then when you recruit to that area and you bring somebody in and they experience that spectrum when it's really rocking, I think that resonates with players. Now, in this day and age, you're going to have to be there financially too. But one of the things I think gives you an edge is the fact that guys want to play in big time venues in a big time atmosphere. And while Utah State, the venue itself may not be overly large, when you're in there in the middle of a game, it feels that way. And the students are on top of you and you get treated like royalty and you are an absolute hero. And you go anywhere you want in town and you're never buying a meal. Now it's legal. But everywhere you go, you are treated like the BMOC, which you are. And I think that resonates with young players. I know, look, Cache Valley, it's not where a lot of guys really look at and say, okay, that's where I want to go and have my college experience. But once they get there, they're like, hey, this is actually pretty cool. And guys really find an affinity towards it. So I think it's pretty easy to recruit to once you experience the spectrum. And now you've got coaches. And, a lot of people go glass half empty on the rotating coaches. I'll go the other way. I'll go glass half full because you've got a lot of coaches out there that now look at that job and say, I can go there, I can win, and I can parlay that into another big opportunity. So coaches are looking at that like, hey, you know what? I can be really, really successful there. And so you have some of the brightest minds in college basketball, especially young up and coming coaches that identify that job and say, yes, that's where I want to go. A lot of agents out there are like, hey, if Utah State comes calling, you take that phone call because you can win there. Look what the long list of guys, look at the revenue that those guys have generated between Ryan Odom, Craig Smith, Danny Sprinkle. And if Coach Calhoun decides to leave, it'll be for a lot of money as well. So I think that agents out there like, wow, I can get my 3% off this guy based on what he's going to get after on his next job. So yeah, let's get him to Utah State. It's just a really good situation. It's not a blue blood program in terms of a Power 4, but I think it's turning into a G5 blue blood program where you're going to win year in and year out.
Looking to today's matchup, right? Mountain West Conference title on the line, Utah State, San Diego State. This is basically a story rivalry in the Mountain West Conference. This is the fifth meeting between these two teams since 2019. It's split 2-2. San Diego State has won the two most recent meetings in the Mountain West Conference Championship. It's split this season, right? One win each side. When you look at the championship games between these two teams, the total points, 243 to 237 in favor of San Diego State.
I'm still on that number. I'm still on that. Nice pull.
Yeah, go ahead and use it. I stole it from Twitter. So,
okay.
But it's always neck and neck between these two schools. What are you expecting tonight?
Just another dogfight. I mean, it's what happens when Utah State and San Diego State play. Both teams very defensive oriented, although they play different styles of defense. San Diego State just wants to mug you. San Diego State just wants to take you on the whooping shed and just beat you up like a high school bully, like Christian was back in the day at Box Elder. But Utah State, they are aggressive defensively, not from an overly physical standpoint, but more in the terms of trying to create turnovers, get deflections, get into passing lanes, get out in the open court and run. Utah State, a really great fast break team. And so you're going to see differing styles, but very much emphasized on defense. And it wouldn't surprise me if you saw a 72-68 kind of game today where every possession is going to matter and it's going to go right down to the wire because that's what you expect when these two teams go. It's just a fun rivalry. The fan bases don't like each other very much, but they do respect each other. And so I think that place is going to be rocking. San Diego State's got a lot of fans. A lot of Utah State fans have made the trip down here. So it's going to be an awesome environment coming up today.
Unfortunately, with the Aggies, with the success comes the rumor mill, right? And we got to mention that real quick. Cincinnati has fired their head coach, Jared Calhoun, of course, with the ties to Cincinnati. Eric Hout, associate head coach, has announced he's going to Tarleton State. So, as far as the outside noise, how does this team deal with that? Whether or not Calhoun stays or goes, I'm not necessarily asking that because nobody really knows at this point. But this is something they've had to put up with every single year, end of the conference tournament and then getting into the NCAA tournament, it's like we don't even know if our coach is going to be here next year. So how does this Aggie team kind of put that aside and go out and give it their all, not just today, but whatever happens next week?
Well, I do think that, it's a great question because the noise is out there for sure. And these guys are on Twitter. They see what's going on. And I think that, they heard the Kansas State smoke that kicked up earlier in the week and now into Cincinnati. And if he turns that job down, then I'm sure there'll be another job that he'll be linked to that'll be talked about next week. So, yeah, it's a spin cycle for sure. But the one thing is, these guys are all used to it. We go back to Mason Falslev. Mason's played for Ryan Odom. He's played for Danny Sprinkle. He's played for Jared Calhoun. He's seen all those guys come and go. And so he's like, well, this is what I call March for me. This is what happens every March. Either there's rumors of guys leaving or they actually do leave. So there's a little bit of oh boy, here we go again. Let's just take care of business. This team is really dialed in. They do a good job. They got burnt, I think, a little bit near the end of the season, reading a little bit of their own press clippings. And I think those back-to-back losses to Nevada and San Diego State kind of shook them up a little bit, especially when they lost to UB. And I think there was an element of like, okay, you know what? Just focus on us. Let's turn down the outside noise. It's easier said than done, but I think that was the emphasis, and that's why this team's playing better. So, yeah, they'll hear it. They'll talk about it. They'll joke about it. I've been on buses with these guys when everybody's kind of having a good laugh about like, oh, who we got next year, and it's just part of the culture here. We talk about culture. The culture, one of the elements is that the players all kind of joke around about like, well, who's going to be our coach? And sometimes it's real and sometimes it's not real, but we'll wait and see. But Jared Calhoun, I think, does a good job of nip it in the bud. He's not one of those guys like Urban Meyer that says, no, I'm going to be here for the rest of my life. I think he's open and honest and transparent. Like, look, we'll take a look at opportunities. We'll see what's out there. I've got a great program here. So, either way, we're going to be in pretty good shape. So I think it's a little overblown, but it's real. It's out there. Make no mistake.
There was that video on social media earlier this week after Tarleton State announces Eric Howe as their next head coach, and it was put out by Tarleton Athletics, and there was a look inside the locker room of Utah State after the UNLV game, and everybody was embracing him and hugging him, and it was really awesome to see kind of the inside look of the locker room because I feel like it exemplifies that what you're talking about there with the culture and what Utah State and what Jared Calhoun has been able to build up there. Real quick, Scotty, your keys to the game tonight. What are you looking for the most? What's going to stand out to you the most when it comes to the San Diego State matchup?
San Diego State is going to foul, and they're going to foul often. Their belief is they're not going to blow the whistle on every possession, so they're going to try to play bully ball. Two things. How does Utah State respond to that? Can they handle it mentally and physically? And then number two, San Diego State's going to send you to the free throw line with those fouls. You got to knock down free throws. Utah State needs to be at 70% from the free throw line. This is not an overly good free throw shooting team on the year. If they can be in that 74, 75% range, I think they've got a really good shot. If they can force turnovers and also points in the paint, I think they're going to be interesting. If Utah State can be even with San Diego State, who wants to punish you in the paint, I think the Aggies will be in good shape. And if they can hit, 40 might be a bit too much to ask for in terms of percentage on three-point shooting. But if they're at 35 to 37% from beyond the three-point line, then I think they'll be in good shape. I don't know. I've got a good feeling about it. I think Utah State players and coaches have a good feeling about it. Coming off that victory over UNLV and then last night against Nevada, this team's rolling. And but the thing also, the Mountain West has a weird setup where you play late last night and then you have a turnaround, and it's not like you're playing late tonight. You're playing afternoon. It'll be a 3:00 tip-off here in Las Vegas. So there's little time to turn around. That's why that one seed is so important, because at least it gives you a little bit of a 4-hour head start on getting a little bit of rest. So you'll see teams, it'll be an ugly start. It happens every year in the championship game. Both teams start out really poorly because they're trying to get their feet underneath them after the late night the night before. So don't anticipate a great start to this game by either team, but you should see some fireworks down the stretch.
I'll close with this, Scotty. I've got a bit of a personal interest in this one. I got to save my own skin here. A lot of people don't know this. I was producing 3 years ago when Utah State made their last conference finals, and I made it all the way up to the championship game, and I actually had a trip that was planned that I ended up taking. So I produced all the way throughout the Mountain West tournament. Utah State made the conference title game, and then they lost to San Diego State. And Scotty, I think you're still a little upset at me for that. So I look at tonight as an opportunity to redeem myself. So we'll see if I can help the Aggies get back on track with my producing skills.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I remember Ryan Odom afterwards, like, where was Christian? I'm like, he had a trip. And he's like, well, that's the key to the game. That's why we lost that game. And you also missed the NCAA tournament game, too.
I did, yeah. They lost back-to-back games, yep. And those were, at that point in that year, those were the only 2 games they had lost, was the 2 that I missed. So, man, it still screws with me. I still lose sleep over it. So I need today.
I'm sure you do.
I need today to get back on track. That is Scotty G, Scott Garrard. You can hear him today on the call. Utah State playing for the Mountain West Conference title game. Pre-game starts at 3:30. Tip-off is at 4. Thank you so much for your time, Scotty. I'll talk to you later.
You guys got it. Thanks for having me on. Always appreciate it.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Scotty.
All right, big day for the Aggies, and we will continue hitting on college basketball. We're going to take a break. Stick with us. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome into the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles, thank you for joining us. It's been a good March so far, midway through.
It's the best. It's the best time of the year, because this is like when all the action.
Yeah.
One of the best times of the year. I should clarify.
Yeah.
We had this conversation.
I know. You guys always get into it.
Yeah. Alex always has, Alex Curry's a big football guy. He's going to say October. I kind of flip-flop, right? I kind of flip-flop and say sometimes October, November, the college football NFL season is better. But then during this time, like we get to this time of the year, the early parts of March, and I'm like, dude, give me March all day, every day. I mean, did you see the winner from Arizona last night?
Dude,
the buzzer beater in the semifinal of a Big 12 of the Big 12 tournament. Arizona has it with like 2 seconds. Bradley pulls up with literally point something seconds left. Hits the winner like that. That is March. Inject it into my veins. And anytime we get to this time of the year, man, I get hyped.
Yeah, well, San Diego State hit a game-winning shot too.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, and against New Mexico, they were playing obviously on the other side of the tournament from Utah State. San Diego State, New Mexico, and I knew going in it was going to be a dogfight of a game, and we have that call actually, and this is the shot that sends San Diego State to the conference title game.
It's all on the line. Davis, a hero once already against New Mexico, puts it up and in. 2 seconds. Time.
So not quite at the buzzer, 2 seconds left, but yeah, I mean, winner of that game, advancing to play Utah State, and of course it's San Diego State, man. Of course, Davis with the big shot.
And again, for the final iteration of this Mountain West conference, I feel like it's a perfect ending.
Oh, it's so funny.
It's going to be a perfect ending, right? You have the two teams, this rivalry to kind of send it out before they both move on to the Pac-12, man. It's gonna be awesome. Looking forward to it.
It's been a very fun week.
That shot though, that call, the hearing the crowd pop, like that's March, and that's what makes this time of year so special.
Yeah, and that's what, I don't know. There's a lot of back and forth about where the Big 12 should hold their conference tournament, right? It's in Kansas City. A lot of people here locally are used to watching BYU in their conference tournament in Las Vegas, right? Because that's where it was for some time, or Utah playing in Las Vegas. And then, of course, Utah State is always in Las Vegas. So I think the point, though, is like fans are always going to travel, right? Whether it's in Las Vegas or in Kansas City. Yeah. I think the fans that would, Utah State fans today that are like, oh my gosh, the Aggies are in the title game. Let's take a quick 6-7 hour drive down to Las Vegas and go watch. I think those same people would be like, oh yeah, my Cougars are in the Big 12 title game. Yeah, I'm going to go fly out there for a weekend to go watch. I don't know.
I mean,
I don't think it really matters that much where it's at, but maybe it does.
I don't necessarily either. Especially with, and shout out to BYU fans, because I think BYU travels really well. I think the entire state of Utah travels really well.
Right. We love our sports here, man.
Absolutely. And so whether it's the Aggies playing in the Mountain West Conference Championship, whether it's BYU making a run, whether it's Utah making a run, the fans will show up. The fans will be there, because Utah travels.
Yeah, and I mean, even against literally UNLV with the home court advantage in the Mountain West Conference tournament. They play in UNLV Stadium. There's how many freaking basketball stadiums in Las Vegas, and they still play at the Thomas and Mack. Utah State was playing UNLV in the midday game on Thursday, and Utah State fans outnumbered UNLV 8-1. According to our guy Scotty G. And then last night they're playing Nevada, UNR, right? And Reno is still pretty far from Las Vegas, but it's still an in-state team. Utah State had way more fans than Nevada did. So, again, shout out to the blue-blooded Aggie fans out there.
And for those of you who are driving down to Vegas right now and tuning in, we appreciate you.
We appreciate you,
Absolutely.
Man. Let's flip real quick. We've got some storylines from NFL free agency I wanted to get your thoughts on, because it has been so dramatic. So dramatic. A lot of movement, a lot of big splashes, but the most controversial move of them all, of course, is the Baltimore Ravens backing out of the Max Crosby trade. And we talked about the trade last week because it had been agreed upon.
Right.
Wasn't finalized yet because Max Crosby still had to take his physical. And I was kind of mentioning I did not like that move at all for the Ravens. And, I didn't know Max Crosby was going to fail his physical. But, of course, the conspiracy theory is they kind of realized that giving up 2 firsts for Max Crosby was a bit too steep of a price. And they're using the physical as kind of an out of this trade, right? So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? Of course,
I believe it.
Keep in mind, right? They do turn around and immediately sign Trey Hendrickson.
Right.
And
literally
the morning after they back out of the trade.
And that's part of the reason why I believe the conspiracy theorists out there about the situation and about what's happening. And, buyer remorse is a real thing.
Yes.
You give up a couple of first rounders, and you try to bring in Max Crosby, but then you find out Trey Henderson's available for cheaper.
Yeah, I think Max Crosby's a much better player than Trey Hendrickson.
I would agree.
You are getting with Hendrickson. If Max Crosby is an A+ pass rusher and an A+ run stopper, Hendrickson is probably a B+ pass rusher and a C+ run stopper. He doesn't do much against the run. But, if you can get 80% of Max Crosby's production for 75% of his money and you hold on to your first round picks, I think they'll take that because they realize, like I said last week, they're not a Max Crosby away from competing for the AFC North title, much less the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
That's a very tough division. Especially if the Bengals are at full strength. So I like the move, but I am curious to see if this keeps other teams from doing any business with the Ravens in the future.
Well, and then you have the Ravens GM and the Ravens staff coming out afterwards and trying to PR the situation a little bit, try to control the situation a little bit. And, DeCosta came out saying that we were planning on signing both, bringing in Crosby and bringing in Trey Hendrickson. I don't know how much I believe that.
No, I don't believe that for a second.
I don't know how much I believe that. I think that's more of we're just trying to mitigate the situation because they're catching a lot of heat right now. But ultimately, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing for either teams that this fell through.
No.
Because I think the Raiders have picked up some really interesting names and have picked up some really interesting signings in free agency, plus including 2 linebackers that I really like. You're able to add that to Max Crosby, and that defense has potential to be pretty good this season, Christian. And as far as the Ravens go, I feel like they need some help on offense.
Yeah.
And if you keep that, what is it, 14th pick? you can probably bring in something to help out that offense.
Immediately, right.
Yes.
And that's the funny thing with the Raiders is like, is Max Crosby going to stick around? I guess he is. I don't know. He released a tweet saying, "Let's get it."
They're all saying that they're all saying he's sticking around and he's coming back. We'll see. Obviously, as the season gets going, or as we get further into the off season and closer to the start of the season, and maybe even the trade deadline.
Yeah,
we'll see if that still holds true.
Because they went crazy in free agency. They by far spent the most money out of any team on free agency. Of course. No bigger move than bringing in Tyler Linderbaum, another Baltimore Raven, right, to bolster their offensive line. I think that they realized that if they are going to get Ashton Ginty going, if they're going to bring in Fernando Mendoza and get him going, they need to bolster their trenches. So they start by signing a center. They've also improved basically every position group on the team. And at first it was like, okay, we're getting this team ready to ease in our incoming rookie quarterback, but then you bring back Max Crosby and it's like, okay, wait a second. Like, if Mendoza is above average as a rookie, this Raider team's not going to be half bad.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
There's potential there, man.
There is.
There's potential there. And again, the two linebackers that they signed, Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker, are two guys that I really like and were amongst some of the better free agents available this season. They both ended up going to Las Vegas. You also signed up some younger, interesting names too at the defensive end position, like Kwity Paye, and then Eric Stokes too at corner. You're bringing in a lot too to help that defense. We'll see how this new Raiders team looks, man. There's reason for optimism.
Yeah, if you're a Raiders fan. But there's also reason to, not be optimistic, and that's because it's the Raiders, right? When has anything ever worked out for the Raiders? But we'll see with Tom Brady calling the shots. I have seen a lot of back and forth about how much input Tom Brady's having and all this, and it sounds like it's quite a bit.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why they're turning around. I don't know. Some other big free agency moves, of course, Kenneth Walker, Super Bowl MVP, going to the Chiefs.
I like that move.
I like that move a lot. I am interested to see what it does for him because he was hurt every year in Seattle until this season because they dramatically reduced his workload. He was basically going 50-50 with the other running backs.
Yeah.
And he played all year. So if Kansas City's bringing him in to be a workhorse like Seattle did in his first 3 years, is he going to go back to getting banged up? So we'll see. But when he's healthy, man, he is as good of a running back as there is in the NFL. Super explosive.
He's a step up from Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah.
And even then, Isaiah Pacheco had his injury issues last season as well. They needed some help in that running back room.
They did.
And I feel like they are getting that with Kenneth Walker.
Another big move, Mike Evans going to San Francisco. He had kind of a really dramatic quote when he said something like, "I felt like they were one piece away and their missing piece was me."
Yes.
Like, dude, you're 32 years old.
I love the confidence from Mike Evans.
Sure, yeah.
I love the confidence, but can he finish the season healthy?
I like Mike Evans a lot.
Can he go without getting injured?
Yeah, and that's the big thing. 32 years old. He had however many straight 1,000-yard seasons. What was it, 8 or 9 with Tampa Bay?
Didn't get it this last season because
he broke his collarbone.
Yeah.
I actually am really sad that he's leaving Tampa Bay, and I'm not a Bucs fan by any means, but Mike Evans is the type of player who should play his whole career with one team. And it's like Keenan Allen with the Chargers, and he left to go to Chicago for a year, and he went back to the Chargers because everybody knew it wasn't – like, what's the point of leaving when you're over 30, when you're past your prime? What's the point? You have done everything for this franchise. You spent your entire career there. Everybody loves you, right? Everybody in the Tampa Bay area loves Mike Evans. And you're throwing that all away to go play for the 49ers all the way across the country for a team that, they fail to meet expectations every single year. We'll see. But looking at the 49ers roster now, it's funny because they are basically a walking retirement home. George Kittle, 30-something years old, and I'm giving Sean some hell here. Sean,
Yes,
producer
yes.
Sean, is a 49ers fan.
He's staring daggers into Christian right
But
now.
like George Kittle, 30-something years old, coming off a torn Achilles, right? Mike
right.
Evans, he's, as I mentioned, broken collarbone last year on the wrong side of 30. Christian McCaffrey getting up there in age. He's always hurt. Ricky Pearsall, he was hurt all last year. He can be pretty good when he's healthy, I guess. Nobody knows what's going on with Brandon Ayuk. They're probably going to cut him. Brock Purdy's fine. The defense is always banged up. I just don't know if I truly believe it when Mike Evans says they were a piece away and I'm their missing piece or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude.
It's a little dramatic, and I don't think that he is just the one piece that the 49ers need to get back to Super Bowl contention. I think they're still a playoff team, but overall, good move with the money. And
Yeah, go get paid.
and I think that's what this is for Mike Evans.
How about Devin Lloyd going to Carolina? He's getting a big deal.
Yeah, local.
3 years.
I was kind of disappointed that Jacksonville wasn't willing to
3
keep
years,
him,
45
keep him
is what
around,
it
man.
was. I know. And he had a breakout season last year, and that's why he's gone, right? Because he kind of underwhelmed in his first few years. They didn't pick up his fifth-year option, so he was a free agent. And, yeah, he had 5 interceptions last season, and they all came within the first, I think, 6 or 7 games. But he was really solid last year, and Jacksonville had something going. They were a really good football team. I think they lost some key players that they're going to regret letting walk.
Absolutely.
And Devin Lloyd
Devin
Lloyd is one of them.
1,000%. I think Jacksonville overshot expectations, right? I don't think anybody thought that they would be as good as they were this past season.
Yeah.
Devin Lloyd, a massive heart of that defense, and you're absolutely right. They let a couple players who I think are key players and were key players to that Jacksonville Jaguars team this past season. We'll see where Jacksonville ends up on all this. Disappointed that I thought Devin Lloyd, bring him back, get him paid, and you have yourself a star and an absolute stud on the defensive side of the ball. But Carolina's picking up a really, really great linebacker, and I think he'll find some success with the Carolina Panthers. And I'm interested in what Carolina has done in free agency. They've picked up a couple of under the radar sneaky names that might make that might help them be a lot better this next season.
Well, the consistency is the big thing for Devin Lloyd because the splash plays are there for sure, but the play-to-play, the drive-to-drive consistency, I think that's probably why Jacksonville was comfortable letting him walk. Still got to see some improvement there, but I mean his top-end level of play is up there with any linebacker in the league. I remember I went and watched the Utah-Oregon Pac-12 championship in Las Vegas, and Devin Lloyd won the player of the game that game, and it was for good reason. I mean, watching that in person, it was one of the single-handedly most dominant football games I've ever seen from a middle linebacker.
Yeah.
And it's hard to believe a middle linebacker can control a game that much. So it was awesome to see Devin Lloyd do that for the Utes, and he was a great player for this program, and it's awesome to see him get a big contract. That's what matters most, man, is these local guys getting paid.
Like Rashid Shaheed.
Yeah. Nice fit. Got a Super Bowl ring on his finger. And I think that's a smart move by him. That's a team that trades for you. And, yes, you're not a superstar as far as JSN, right? But they love what you bring on the special team side. That's very important to them. And then you've got the explosive over-the-top ability. And I think he realizes his value to that team, and I think everybody in Seattle is so happy that they traded for him. So I like that a lot too.
3 years, $51 million for the Weber State grad.
That's awesome, man.
Love it.
That is great. Real quick, Kyler Murray signing with the Vikings. I think it's a move a lot of people expected. Sounded like yesterday he was down to 2 teams, right? It was the Vikings, where you can go play for Kevin O'Connell, a guy who's kind of revived some quarterbacks' careers like Sam Darnold, right? He got Josh Dobbs a few more stops in the leagues as a backup. Or he could go to the Rams, be the backup for a season, and then take over when Stafford retires. But he chose to go to Minnesota. Where are you at on Kyler Murray?
I think Kyler Murray will end up winning the starting job.
I don't think it's a competition at all.
Yeah, I think rolling out day one, you will see Kyler Murray as QB1 for the Minnesota Vikings. We'll see. I think this is a massive test for, everybody was praising Kevin O'Connell for the quarterback development, right? And what he did with Sam Darnold. And it hasn't worked out with J.J. McCarthy. And that's okay. But now if it doesn't work out with Kyler Murray, I think questions will be asked upon Kevin O'Connell. And his seat will be hotter and hotter.
That's so tough, man, because you look at what you just said right there, and I agree with you because that's how the world works. But you look at behind the scenes and how much of that is his fault. How much of, like, Kirk Cousins had his best play in his career under Kevin O'Connell.
No doubt.
And their GM that is no longer with the team now, they fired him, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, right? He chooses not to bring back Kirk Cousins. They let Kirk Cousins walk. They go with Sam Darnold, right? Sam Darnold has an exceptional year. He chooses to let Sam Darnold walk and go with J.J. McCarthy. So how much of that is the head coach's fault versus the GM's fault? Well, the GM's out.
Yeah.
But you're right. If Kyler Murray doesn't work out, people are going to look at Kevin O'Connell and blame it on him. Then he's going to go somewhere else and have a bunch of success. Because, again,
that's how it works.
That's how all of this works.
Absolutely. We'll see if Kyler Murray is the answer. Like I said, I think he is going to be QB1 for the Vikings come day one, come opening day. But I don't know how much success he'll end up finding there.
I think you can bring him to the playoffs.
It depends on what the Lions, what the Packers, and what the Bears do.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good division.
I think looking right now at that division, they are the weakest team in that division.
Yeah, as far as top to bottom roster, everybody else, well, I'd argue it's close with the Lions. The Lions are on the way down, right? I think the Bears are ascending.
Yes.
I think the Packers are always going to be pretty consistent. I think the Lions reached their peak, honestly. I think they're kind of on the downhill.
It's crazy because the Packers have like plateaued, but they're still good.
Yeah, they're still in that plateau. Yeah. I don't think they're really rising or falling. I think
exactly.
You know what you're going to get with the Packers.
Right.
And yeah, so we'll see whether the Vikings are going to bounce back because they were a playoff team 2 years ago, or I guess, a calendar year ago. This season they were not a playoff team. So which one is the true Minnesota? And we'll see. And yeah, a lot of that's going to fall on Kevin O'Connell.
Absolutely.
I kind of like the move. I don't know. I feel bad for Kyler Murray, but at the same time, he brought a lot of this on himself. Like all the Call of Duty jokes, they're so old and overplayed. But like again, he brought that upon himself.
I feel bad that people were like genuinely telling him or putting out articles out there saying, "Hey, you should go back to baseball."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I'm glad he has another shot. I'm glad he has another shot to prove himself. But he's been the butt of a lot of jokes.
I do think the short jokes are funny. And I am short. I'm short myself. So I understand that it is painful, but I do think the short jokes are funny.
Short kings, man.
Let's take a break, Alex. Coming up next, we will get to technical fouls. We got a couple funny ones to get to. But of course, I've got one that's going to upset a lot of people locally for good reason. I'm upset about it too. So we'll get to that next. Stick with us. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
If you're coming from the street with dirty shoes on your feet, that's a technical foul. If you switch the radio to some modern music show, that's a technical foul. If you touch the thermostat,
you'll get hit with a bat.
'cause that's a technical foul.
You will feel my wrath.
That's a technical foul.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
A technical foul.
Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles, coming at you on a Saturday morning. Alex, it is time for Technical Fouls, one of our favorite segments every week. We take some time here to talk about some of the funnier things that go on in sports. We poke fun, make fun of, tease, call people out. Do a lot of that here, all right? So we got to start with this from the top rope. Rest in peace to the glass courts.
2026 to 2026. You lived a good life.
Let's take a moment of silence. Silence, please.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. Seriously, this was one of the worst ideas that anybody has ever had. Let's play basketball on glass floors.
Yes.
because it looks cool when we put lights underneath it.
Yeah.
How stupid. Everybody knew this was going to be a bad idea. They had all of, not this past week, I'm talking about the week before, Alex. I'm talking about the first week of March with the women's tournament to see how awful of an idea this was.
That's right.
The players complained. Nobody cared that the players complained. People complained from Monday. This week, people have been complaining all week, and the Big 12 didn't do anything until yesterday when finally they gave up on their $2 million investment and went back to the good old hardwood because that's what works. Who would have not? Who would have thought?
And I feel like a lot of it has to play into the injury that we saw Christian Anderson have with the Texas Tech Iowa State game.
And you know what? I'm going to say this. The Big 12 is lucky. And I wish the best for Christian Anderson. The Big 12 is lucky that that's the worst thing that happened.
I would agree.
Is that Christian Anderson pulled his groin.
Yeah.
Because watching all of these Big 12 games, people were sliding all over.
Yeah, and you had people posting pictures on social media of the glass panels literally coming apart.
Yes.
It was
a disaster from day one. But not only that, like we talking about injuries and how the equipment failure and stuff, but watching the game, the court actually impacted the games and the play.
Yeah, players were talking about getting migraines from these floors, man.
Well, I'm thinking specifically of BYU versus Houston. I mean, clutch time, final 2 minutes of the game. It's a very close game. I think it's a 3-point game at this point that I'm talking about. Rob Wright drives into the trees and he loses the ball because he slipped.
Yep.
Because he slipped on the glass floor.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to say that BYU should have beat Houston if it wasn't for the floor, and BYU deserves retribution because they were whatever. They lost the basketball game. The other team was playing the glass floor too. But the point is, we shouldn't sit here and say, oh, this game was worse than it should have been because of the courts. Basketball's been played on hardwood since good old Dr. Basketball invented the game, basically. Over 100 years.
When it comes,
and there's a very good reason.
When it comes to innovation like this, you try it, just not in a Big 12 tournament.
Sure.
Not in your biggest stage.
Right.
Right. There's the non-region or the non-conference preseason, early games. Roll it out there if you want to try it. Roll it out there and test it out. If it doesn't work, whatever, you move on.
Yeah.
And this could have been dealt with months ago. Instead, you roll it out during the Big 12 tournament, your biggest stage to showcase your conference when it comes to the basketball side of things. And it's met with nothing but negative reviews from players, from coaches, from fans, from people watching it on the broadcasts.
Yeah.
This is the worst time you could have rolled it out.
Yeah. And shocker,
and
it didn't work.
It didn't work.
Are you surprised that it didn't work?
No, I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised it didn't work.
I'm not surprised.
Sean, are you surprised that it didn't work?
Not at all.
I like the idea of innovation. I like the idea of trying something new. Just this is not the time. This is not the time or the place for it.
Of course not.
And I hope nothing but the best for Christian Anderson.
That's like when football fields started implementing turf instead of grass. Do you think the very first game on artificial turf was the Super Bowl?
No.
Of course not.
Yeah.
And turf, I'm surprised, has stuck around as long as it has because players don't like playing on it. Nobody prefers turf, artificial grass, to natural grass. Thank goodness for Lionel Messi, right? Who's coming in and basically leading the charge to get all these soccer stadiums to change from artificial grass to real grass because of the World Cup.
Yeah, which in turn, stadiums are now transitioning to some sort of natural grass surface for the World Cup.
Because when, who's to say that hardwood floor is the, scientifically best thing for basketball to be played on, but you've played on it for 100 years and it works and nobody complains and it seems to be designed for that, right? Why change it? I don't know. And I get that the ad dollars probably spoke to Mr. Yormark quite a bit, and he'll do anything for a bag of cash. And you know what? There's a part of me that really appreciates that because that's his job. And, you know, I'm sure all the schools appreciate the money too, right?
And that's what I'm saying. Innovation is great. Finding out things like that and coming up with ideas like that and having the technology to do so, it's great. This is just not the time to do it.
Don't debut it in the conference tournament, in the biggest games of the year for the Big 12 Conference.
I did like the discourse online afterwards of people saying, people quote tweeting like the big shot made by Arizona to win that game against Iowa State, and people saying if this wouldn't have happened if it was on the glass court. So I do like people throwing that back at the Big 12 a little bit.
Oh, that's funny. That is funny. Well, yeah, rest in peace, glass courts. I don't think anybody's going to miss you.
Served us well.
Not really. Not really. Safe to say that the NCAA tournament will be playing on hardwood.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that any major college basketball game is going to be played on glass floor anytime soon.
Yep. They tried it, didn't work.
Nope. All right. That was fun. We got to talk Jazz next segment. The Jazz had a close game last night against the Trailblazers. A lot of people are upset that it was really close. The Jazz at one point were up by 10. People were losing their minds. I want to talk about that. I also got to talk about some stuff that was going on with the Pacers that has some Jazz fans upset. So we will get into Utah Jazz next. Stick with us. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles. We have cracked the code, Alex.
Did we?
St. Patrick's Day coming up.
Hey, there. Yes, yes.
That is the theme of today's music. Sean, are you a big St. Patty's Day guy?
Yeah, my family's all Irish, so. Okay,
I didn't want to assume. I have a friend that he's got some ginger hairs, but he's not Irish, so he gets mad. So I've stopped assuming that.
Yeah, that's fair. I enjoy it. I like going out.
There you go. Well, happy...
Seeing green everywhere.
What is that, Tuesday?
Yes.
Yeah, Tuesday.
Yep.
Dude, St. Patrick's Day is fun.
Happy early St. Patrick's Day.
So earlier we talked about the Mountain West title game that I missed, and Utah State lost because I missed the game. That's why they lost, is because I wasn't producing.
That's why.
I missed because I was getting married that year. I had never met my wife's grandparents, and they live in upstate New York. And that's where I was going. I had a trip planned to go see them in upstate New York. And we were there over St. Patrick's Day. So we celebrating St. Patrick's Day in a little Irish town in upstate New York.
That sounds like fun.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
I will tell you. I'll tell you that. We had a lot of fun. Great time.
Good, man.
St. Patrick's Day is super underrated holiday, I think.
I don't necessarily partake.
Yeah. It's not very big out here, no.
No, I don't necessarily partake. I mean, I remember in elementary school, like you'd get decked down in the green, and then
get pinched.
As you got older, you just kind of stopped wearing green, and now I don't really think about it.
Yeah.
Maybe I got to get more into the holiday spirit. I'll wear green on Tuesday.
You better, man.
I don't think I own green, but I'll figure something out.
You better. Gonna pinch you. Okay, that's enough. We got to talk about the Jazz. The Jazz had a good game yesterday. They lost to the Portland Trailblazers, and I mentioned before the break it was pretty controversial because they ended up losing by 10. At one point, they were down by 2, like down the stretch. They were up by 10 at the end of the first quarter, and then Portland kind of pulled away, but then the Jazz, like I said, came back and made it close towards the end of the game. And I saw so much discourse on social media because the Jazz beat the Warriors. They beat the Wizards within the last week and a half. And people for a second thought the Jazz were going to beat the Trailblazers last night and stack up all these wins. And it's like, why are you winning when you need to protect that precious draft pick? And I think what a lot of people don't realize, Alex, is that these players on the roster don't care about the front office. They don't care about the protected draft pick. They don't care about the future of the team. in the sense that you look at like the guys that are on this team right now, specifically guys like Elijah Harkless, right? A two-way guy.
Yeah.
That is literally playing for his job next year.
Yeah.
Playing for his career. You think he cares about losing that game? He wants to go out there and make a bunch of threes and make a bunch of plays on defense, because even if the Jazz don't bring him back, he's auditioning for all 29 other NBA teams next year. What about Bryce Sensabaugh, right? What about Cody Williams? Guys that whoever the Jazz take with this draft pick, those are the two guys that are probably going to lose their job to this incoming draft pick. Those are the two guys that are probably going to lose minutes. You think they care about what the front office wants to do with this draft pick? So you got to keep that in mind as far as when the Jazz are in it late and playing these close teams and stacking up accidental wins, quote unquote. Like, these players are playing for their futures, man.
Yeah. Looking at it from the perspective of you have to make sure that you hold on to your pick. You have to make sure that you don't convey to Oklahoma City. You have to lose these games, and you have to make sure that you're positioned in a good spot, that the lottery balls will end up going your way, and you get to keep that, and you get to keep that pick, right? Yeah. On the plus side, though, on the positive side, you are seeing a lot of really great things from Kyle Filipowski. You are seeing a lot of great things from Cody Williams. You are seeing a lot of good things from Bryce Sensabaugh, from Isaiah Collier. Those are the guys that are fighting for their roster spot on a winning Jazz team. I think the good news for the Utah Jazz is that you are seeing visible development, and you are seeing good development from these guys that, again, are fighting for their spot. For guys like Oscar Tshiebwe, for guys like Elijah Harkless, Anderson Garcia, and the guy that they just signed up in Bez Mbeng, those guys are auditioning for either for the Jazz or for somebody else in the NBA, so they are going to give it their fullest.
Yes.
They have this opportunity to show the rest of the league what they got. They have the opportunity to go out there and impress for their future. And I think you're seeing a lot of development from and a lot of good things from some of these guys, which is why the Jazz are playing in these scary close games.
Which, by the way, is a good thing.
Absolutely.
Because when you talk about next season, where every single minute or every single second of Jazz basketball is going to matter towards the postseason, you want your depth players to be developed and have experience. You don't want these young and unproven guys to be on the floor.
Do you want Isaiah Collier coming out and not necessarily being comfortable at the NBA level? Or do you want the Isaiah Collier that's coming out, giving you 17 points and 9 assists in a win against, or in a loss against the Portland Trailblazers?
Because that has been the whole point of this rebuild.
Absolutely.
Jaren Jackson Jr., trading for him, using pieces to go get him. Very, very good piece. He's going to help you win a lot of games. He has unlocked the door to take the next step for the Jazz. But what about everybody else that they've drafted? That doesn't just mean that they are worthless. At the very, very least, those guys are expected to play roles in helping the Jazz win games, whether it's in the starting lineup or coming off the bench or replacing starters when they miss games inevitably due to injury, because nobody plays 82 games anymore. So it is so important for these guys to continue to develop and become NBA-level basketball players. And unfortunately for the tankers out there, yes, that means you might get an accidental win here or there. But I'm here to tell you that is a good thing, because winning basketball players, like, let's not get it twisted here. Let's not lose all sight of what it means to be an NBA team, what your ultimate goals are, in spite of, just holding on to this draft pick. You want to be a winning team and winning organization. So when you have players that play their butts off and that want to help you win, that is a good thing.
I feel like this goes back to one of the very, very first conversations we ever had, Christian, when we took over and became a part of the Saturday show. Was what you're talking about, how are you going to instill winning into these guys who are perpetually trying to lose?
Yeah.
This is how you do it.
Yeah.
This is how you do it, by getting a 31-point performance from Bryson Sabah, where he goes 6 from 8 from 3. From getting an Isaiah Collier who's dishing it out and has been phenomenal at providing assists for his teammates and has shown a lot of big steps in his development in year 2 as a point guard in this league.
Yeah.
This is those moments. This is how you instill the winning mentality. This is how you instill the winning culture in these young guys. Is it concerning for Jazz fans? Absolutely, because you run that possibility and you run that risk of accidentally winning a game, and they just had that win against the Wizards, and they just had that win against Golden State, and that's concerning. That's reason for
to an extent.
Jazz fans, as far as the tankathon standings goes, that's concerning. But everything else, as far as the performances, as far as what the players are doing defensively, as far as what the players are able to bring you on the floor, those are all good things. And those are things that are going to help you next season when you are pushing for the playoffs and you are trying to make a push to be a contender in the Western Conference.
As it sits right now, the Jazz are the 5th worst record in the NBA, 20-47. They have 15 games left to go. Right behind them, New Orleans, 22-46. Dallas, 22-45. Memphis, 23-43. Those are the 3 teams that if when you look at the lottery, those are the 3 teams that you want the Jazz to finish with a worse record than. Fortunately, as we all know, the Pelicans are going to try and keep winning. And their last 10, they're 6-4. So that's a good pace. They're going to fall out of that range as far as being in contention with the Jazz. The Mavericks and the Grizzlies are the 2 teams you got to keep an eye on because they're quote-unquote tanking. Yeah, the Mavericks have been very bad lately. The Grizzlies have been very bad lately. They're on a 7-game losing streak as well. So yeah, you gotta keep adding those losses if you're the Jazz, if you want to hold on to this pick. But you got to remember, I mean, you can't go out there and ask Elijah Harkless to lose a basketball game. You can't go out there and ask Bryce Sensabaugh to lose a basketball game. Some of these guys are playing for their futures in this league, and credit to them. I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong, by the way. I'm advocating for that. I'm advocating for them to go out there and showcase their skills and showcase their abilities, and it's a tough line to walk, man. But I think the Jazz are going to end in a very good spot. 15 games left. I don't see a ton of accidental wins left.
Yeah,
I really don't.
You might have one on Sunday. Taking on the Sacramento Kings. Or I guess tomorrow.
Yeah.
Taking on the Sacramento Kings. And then you take on the Milwaukee Bucks again.
Well, they should lose. They should lose the Bucks.
Yeah.
I don't know. We do got to mention this real quick. We don't have a ton of time to spend on it, but I got to bring it up because I do think the NBA needs to do something. I know you saw this, Alex. The Indiana Pacers pulled some tank shenanigans that a team that we cover got fined for.
Yes.
And I don't know about you. I haven't heard a peep from the NBA about what the Pacers did. This happened the other night. The Pacers in a game, Ivica Zubac was having a very good game. Played almost the entire first half. Looked good, 8 points. Andrew Nembhard, 23 points in the first half, just 17 minutes of play. What happens?
They didn't play a single minute.
They do not play a single minute in the second half.
Sound familiar?
Yeah. The Jazz got fined $500,000 for doing this.
Interesting.
Not a peep about the Pacers. Funny enough, the Pacers were fined that same day.
Right.
But they're not getting fined for this.
Right. Real quick, too, with that, the Pacers have now lost 12 games in a row and have overtaken the Sacramento Kings for the worst record in the NBA.
Okay.
All while this is happening.
So it sounds like there's a reason why their good players didn't play in the second half.
Oh, yeah. Because they have now taken... I remember we were having a conversation with it was me, JJ, and Alex, and we were having a conversation, and JJ was like, nobody's catching the Sacramento Kings as the worst team in the NBA. But the Pacers have done it with this 12-game losing streak. they now own the worst record in the NBA, and it's because Zubac and Emhard, the guys who are supposed to be your better players, are not playing in the second half. You are essentially pulling them and manipulating it so you can lose these games.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what the Jazz did against who did they play? It was the Miami Heat and the Magic.
Yeah.
Those are the games that they got fined for.
So the problem here, and look, do what you got to do to lose your games, right?
Yeah.
And because I'm not going to sit here and point fingers at the Pacers for doing what the Jazz did.
Yeah.
Whatever. Lose how you want to lose. I don't care. I'm pointing my fingers at the NBA.
Yes.
Because they set a precedent by fining the Utah Jazz $500,000 for specifically saying you can't do that.
Yeah.
And everybody knows what they got fined for. It's no secret. The NBA was very clear about what they were upset about.
It was, quote, conduct detrimental to the league.
They fined the Jazz. And by fining the Jazz, you set that precedent by saying, okay, you can't do this.
Yeah. And now that you're seeing the Pacers do it, is that not conduct detrimental to the league?
And that is the frustrating part.
The thing that you fined the Utah Jazz for just a month ago.
So what I'm saying is that, are you surprised that the NBA did not fine the Pacers for this?
Yes and no.
I'm not surprised one bit. I'm not
surprised. I'm not surprised because, I mean, we had a conversation of the measures that they're trying to take to stop this form, of tanking.
Right. But the day that the Jazz got fined, I could have told you that nobody else in the league was going to get fined for the same thing the rest of the season. I could have told you that day. Because why? The NBA loves to make a poster boy of the Jazz. The NBA loves to sit there and blame the Jazz for everything. The Jazz have become the face of tanking in the NBA when you look at all of the top teams across the league right now, and they've done it. They've completed their tanks and their rebuilds, and they've got their MVP level players because of tanks. But when the Jazz do it, that's when it becomes a problem. So the NBA doesn't care when anybody else does it. The NBA only cares when the Jazz do it. And it's very, very frustrating to not see a fine handed out of the Pacers for doing the same exact thing. But while I say it's frustrating, it's not surprising. Just because we knew that the NBA wasn't going to stand up or hold up to the rules, the precedents that they set.
Right.
We knew that fine was for show.
Yes.
That fine was...
And this just proves it.
Yes.
Yeah.
We knew that the only reason the Jazz got fined that day is because it was All-Star Weekend. Adam Silver had to talk to the media, and he needed to kind of say, yeah, I'm doing something. See, here, look. And we knew that nothing else was going to happen. So that's why I'm upset about this. Yeah. And that's why I think Jazz fans should be upset about this, because their team keeps getting picked on. Their team is blamed as the bad guy. Everybody else around the league thinks that the Jazz are the worst tankers ever, and they're ruining the NBA with their tanking.
The most egregious.
And it's so egregious.
Yeah. Yep.
Everybody else does it, man.
To take it a step further, last Sunday, Trae Young versus the Pelicans was pulled into the third quarter, did not return to that game, and the Wizards lost. And Trae Young obviously is supposed to be the Wizards' best player. They almost accidentally won a game on Thursday night, I think it was, where they go to overtime against the Magic in a game, of course, in the third quarter, where Trae Young is pulled, and they lose in overtime. So it's not just the Pacers. The Wizards are also doing it with Trae Young. It's not just the Pacers and the Wizards. The Nets are doing it with Clowney and Claxton, who are supposed to be two of their best guys right now.
Right, everybody does this. It's not just the Jazz.
Clowney and Claxton were subbed out in the third quarter against Atlanta and did not return. They were leading that game in the fourth quarter, and they ended up losing by 11 because the Brooklyn Nets are also trying to position themselves well in the lottery.
Right.
The Pacers, the Wizards.
All of these teams that are doing this have incentive to lose.
Yes.
So you can read in between the lines and say, okay, your best player is not on the floor in these situations where you should be trying to win this game. We know why you're trying to lose.
The Pacers, the Wizards, and the Brooklyn Nets have all done what the Jazz did against the Magic and the Heat, in which those
Right.
games they were fine for.
And how did Adam
And
Silver
there's
word it?
been-
He said, "You know it when you see it," or something like
Yeah,
that.
yes.
We know it.
We're seeing it.
Seeing it. We know it. We're seeing it.
Yeah.
And nothing is going to be done about it.
No, absolutely not.
So either the NBA needs to fine all of these teams $500,000, or they need to give Ryan Smith his $500,000 back. They have 24 hours to respond to me.
Put in a ransom note. Give us our money back.
Ryan, I got you, man.
Oh man, I don't think that we'll end up seeing anything.
No, I know for a fact
yeah.
we're not going to see a single dollar.
It's all going to come down to the offseason when they decide to make those changes and implement those anti-tanking rules, which again we've talked about before. It is not a tanking problem; it is a lottery problem, and teams are going to tank no matter what.
Always. Because tanking is not a bad thing. I really don't think it is. I think when it gets to the point that the NBA has, like you're saying, that's a systemic problem.
Yes,
You think the Raiders beat the freaking Patriots.
that's right.
You think they could have won a couple more games last season? I bet they could have. But are they okay with the number 1 pick? Yeah,
Absolutely.
it happens.
Yeah.
Every league has tanking. And you know what? That's not so bad of a thing. The problem is when you pick on the small market teams and make examples out of them just because it's not the Lakers doing it or the Celtics doing it or whatever. That's the frustrating part. And that's why Jazz fans, I think, should be really upset, again, with the NBA. We got to take a break. Coming up on the other side, we've got some Utah Mammoth to talk about. For some reason, they just cannot beat the Chicago Blackhawks, a team that's not even very good, by the way. But they're still looking good in the playoff race. We will hit some Utah Mammoth next. Stick with us. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles. Time for 5 minutes of. We will cover several different topics here, maybe. Or maybe we'll talk all Mammoth. We got to talk Mammoth leading off, though, because they have lost 3 games in a row. 2 of those overtime losses to the Chicago Blackhawks. So they've picked up 2 points in these 3 losses. But, Alex, they have lost all 4 games to the Chicago Blackhawks this year, a team that is under 500.
Yeah, they have their number, man. They have their number this year, and it is unfortunate that it's coming to the the Chicago Blackhawks, who are the worst team in their division at the moment. But I guess you can look at it on the plus side a little bit and say that you did pick up those points in overtime. But the reality is, I think especially in this past one that just happened on Thursday night here at Delta Center across the street, Mammoth had their opportunities. Just can capitalize.
I do love the little rivalry we're getting between Logan Cooley and Connor Bedard. I think that is something that is very needed.
Yeah.
Because it's just the juice that comes with the NHL and comes with hockey. And, you know, like, look, spicy tuna was cool for a bit, and it worked. But a lot of that felt forced a little bit when it's like, okay, tuna, go out there and fight somebody. And then the crowd goes crazy, and all the little kids are like, yeah, spicy tuna. But, like, when you get Logan Cooley suplexing Connor Bedard,
Yeah.
like, that's real. That's real disdain. And we've seen Cooley get into it with Macklin Celebrini, too. So it's like all these other young, up-and-coming stars in the NHL, Logan Cooley doesn't get along with them on the ice, and I like that.
Yeah. I did also appreciate Connor Bedard's
The stare down?
the stare down and the little interaction he had with the fans here after he scored the winner. Like I said, unfortunate that you lose that game in overtime and Connor Bedard scores the winner off the rebound. But the chirpiness that he had to with the fans. Over
Did you
there
hear
at
the
Delta
backstory?
Center. No, I didn't hear the backstory.
So the fan that Bedard went up and chirped with all game had been heckling Connor Bedard, saying Logan Cooley's your daddy.
Oh.
This was reported. I can't remember. I think it might have been The Athletic who reported it.
Okay.
This fan had been in Bedard's ear all game because and that's the other weird thing is the Mammoth have played Chicago 3 times within the past 2 weeks, which is really, really weird.
Yeah.
But I think when Cooley suplexed Bedard, that was last Monday at Chicago. They come back to Salt Lake City a couple nights ago, and then that's when the fan is saying, "Hey, Connor Bedard, Logan Cooley's your daddy." And then, of course, Bedard scores the game-winning goal, goes and finds the fan and gets face-to-face with them on the glass. I do think that was awesome. And again, that is the exciting thing about hockey, because these players, it's funny, hearing some of these interviews, they don't have bubbling personalities, right? Some of these guys. But then on the ice, dude, they are just killers. They're stone cold. And you see, when Clayton Keller hit that game-winning goal and he threw his stick over the barrier, that's cool, man. And these guys on the ice, they know how to be entertainers. I'll give them that.
Well, and then I have to give credit too, because moments like that where you have Logan Cooley and Connor Bedard going back and forth, and then you have Bedard going at the fans too after he scores a winner. That's how rivalries start.
Yes, and that's what the Mammoth need, is they need to build some of these heated rivalries.
Those moments are what starts rivalries, and so I'm looking forward to the reception that Connor Bedard gets at Delta Center now next season when he has to return. Or
the Boo Birds are going to come out.
So and that's what starts things like that.
But the wild card race, because that's what most important. As what are you laughing at?
Nothing, man.
As fun as this is to watch the back and forth with some of these teams, the wild card race is what we're watching, right? And right now the Mammoths sit in a very good spot. 74 points. They are 5 points ahead of the Kings, who hold the second wild card spot in the West. And the Mammoth have a pretty... they have a winnable game tonight against Pittsburgh. They should snap their losing streak, walk away with the win, and then they got to go at Dallas and at Vegas, and then versus Anaheim and versus Los Angeles and versus Edmonton. So that is a tough stretch right there.
That's a crucial stretch.
You need to win tonight against Pittsburgh, because all those other teams, Dallas, Vegas, Anaheim, Los Angeles, Edmonton, those are teams that the Mammoth could potentially see in the playoffs shortly.
Yes.
Right? I'm talking first or second round matchups, depending on what happens. So, those are going to be tough games. You need to snap your losing streak tonight and walk away with a win. Mikhail Sergachev back in action. He missed a couple games with an injury. He's back on the defensive line on the top pairing with Mackenzie Weegar. Weegar's been playing a lot. We saw the kid line out there again with Peterka and Cooley and Gunther. Bear's not afraid to change the lineups a bit depending on the matchup and the opponent. So I'm excited for this final stretch, man, because the playoffs really are just around the corner. And looking at it right now, it looks like the Mammoth have a very good shot at being a playoff team, and we're going to get our first season of NHL hockey here in Salt Lake City.
They're in a pretty good spot, and looking at this stretch too, it's all Western Conference teams. It's all teams that, like you mentioned, they could potentially face off. But I'm looking specifically right now at that Sunday, March 22nd game. Depending on how the stretch goes with Dallas, Vegas, Anaheim, and the Kings, that can be a really, really important matchup for the Mammoth as far as the wild card spots goes, because the Kings have now jumped up. They're in the wild card spot with 69 points. The Mammoth do have a game in hand, but they are at 74 points. Again, depending on how that stretch goes, where you're on the road to Dallas, you're on the road at Vegas, and then you take on the Ducks here at Delta Center, that could be a really, really key matchup as far as the wild card standing goes. We'll see how it all shakes up, but I got my eyes on the Kings, and then you go to the Kings the following week on Saturday. So really, really important stretch coming up here for the Utah Mammoth.
And it's funny because this is the fourth time we've said that this year, but it's true. That's what, you can break up the schedule into chunks and be like, okay, if we can walk out of this road trip with this record, and the most recent 5-game road trip the Mammoth went on, they won 3 of those 5 games, and then one of the games they lost was an overtime loss. So they walked away with 7 points. That is a very, very good outcome.
7,
and so,
yes. I think you'll take 7 out of 10.
Yeah, and that's how these stretches kind of work. It's okay, if we can walk out of this stretch with X amount of points, I think the Mammoth are doing a really good job at that, and that's why they are, of course, holding the top wildcard spot right now. They've put themselves in a really good position. They still got to keep it up, right? It's not like they can take their foot off the gas. But
Absolutely.
They are cruising towards a playoff spot. Real quick, before we break, I do want to bring this up. There was a story this morning that came out about Darryn Peterson. And I guess he has come out and talked about, opened up about his cramps that he's been experiencing. That it hasn't been so much in the Big 12 tournament. He's been playing a lot, and I'll give him kudos for that. But, of course, the whole storyline in the second half of the regular season, Darryn Peterson was hardly playing for Kansas because he was cramping. And part of the story, let's see, Shreyas Latta is who put the story out for the KC Star. This quote from Darryn Peterson: "I had a full-body cramp, super serious. You could say it was traumatic. I would say it was a traumatic experience. This happened in September during their boot camp or training camp. So essentially, it was running. They were doing this crazy intense drill, and that's when the cramps kind of started for Darryn Peterson. He had a full-body cramp. He had to go to the hospital, get some IV fluids, and get rehydrated that way. And so the cramps are something he's been dealing with since then. But I think it's almost a mental thing now where it's like even when he gets a minor cramp, he's almost been so traumatized by that full body cramp. Yeah. That's why you'll see him like immediately turn around and check himself out of the game and not return. So I don't know. We only, we can spend time on this. It's not like we need to break. But do you have any thoughts on that? Like, do you think that's a valid reason, I guess, for Darryn Peterson to pull himself out of the games the way that he did?
I look at it this way. He says it's a traumatic experience, and he says, and obviously I think he took a lot of heat and a lot of criticism for pulling himself out of the games the way that he did, and Bill Self came to his aid when this situation was happening, and he said it's not a black and white situation, but didn't really give any more details. But now that we're getting a little bit more of the background, I feel like it gives him the benefit of the doubt a little bit more. I do think, though, with what we've seen over the course of the last couple weeks, I do think that A.J. DeBonsa has made a very great case, to be number one.
And that's what's tough, because if you're an NBA scout or GM and you're looking at it from the bigger picture from the outside, it's like, okay, this dude's checking out of games. We don't know what's going on. Like, how committed is he to college basketball? That's a red flag.
Yeah.
Now this story's coming out, and it's like, okay, he's got this cramping issue. Is that a red flag? If he's going to be,
as far as his health goes, absolutely.
Right. Health-wise, he's cramping up in a 35-game college basketball season. How grueling is an 82-game NBA season going to be when you are traveling even more than you are at Kansas?
Absolutely.
And the traveling's not good for your health and all that. Like, this is a crazy new wrinkle to this draft process when it comes down to A.J. DeBonsa versus Darren Boozer.
Right.
Or Darryn Peterson, excuse me.
I think that this gives him now the benefit of the doubt as far as the criticism he was taking, again, from Kansas fans and from people, including myself, of people who thought that he didn't necessarily want to be in college, and maybe he was at the point where he thought he was good enough to already be in the NBA. And so this kind of gives him the benefit of the doubt of, oh, maybe he actually is dealing with something incredibly serious, and hopefully that he can get it taken care of, and figure out his trauma with what he's experiencing with the full body cramps, or what he experienced with that full body cramp before the draft, and so that way the health isn't as much of a concern. But now that does bring up the wrinkle of, do we take the gamble of taking him number one if he is dealing with serious health injuries?
I will say, I mean, it sounds like a lot of people knew about this, but nobody wanted to be the person that released this story.
Yeah.
It was always, the national media is looking at this and saying what's going on and making up all these stories and kind of, guessing or whatever. But everybody within, not working for Kansas, but media people in Kansas are like, okay, you don't really know the whole story, but I'm not going to get into it because it's not my place. Now that Darryn Peterson has opened up about it himself, now everybody can be like, yeah, we kind of knew this was going on, but it wasn't really our place to share, because it is a health story. It is a personal thing for Darryn Peterson. So now that he has opened up about it, I truly do wish the best for him, and I truly do wish that this is something that he can and work on and move past, not just physically, but mentally as well. Because if
Absolutely.
I'm reading some details from the story, and it sounds like this paragraph I'm reading right here. It says he locked up for 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
More than 30 minutes. His entire body kept locking up. He required medical attention. And again, it wasn't something that they could just work on at the facility. Like, he had to be hospitalized and get IV fluids like that. Of course, that's going to be traumatic for any young person.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, man, wishing the best for Darryn Peterson and wishing he can move past this and put this behind him, because looking back on his year at Kansas, it hasn't gone the way that anybody was hoping that it would have. And these circumstances are out of his control. So I hope that he can put this all behind him and have a great NBA career. I'm excited to see what he does at the next level. So,
Absolutely.
wishing the best for him. We got a big day coming up next. We will get into some of the things we got going on in the station. Utah State playing for the Mountain West basketball title last year of this iteration of the Mountain West Conference, but before they move on to the Pac-12. The Royals going on today, the Mammoth, RSL. We will preview a little bit of all of that next. Stay with us. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Big day of college basketball. Big day here on the Zone. Right now we've got halftime, Wisconsin and Michigan in the semifinal of the Big Ten tournament. That game is tied at the half, 28-28.
Wisconsin's playing them well, man.
SEC semifinals, Vanderbilt, Florida. Vanderbilt kind of walking away with this. It's halftime there. Vanderbilt leads 47-32. I shouldn't say walking away. There's still a whole second half, but 15-point lead at the break over the projected number 1 seed. That would be a big win for Vandy. Ole Miss had a big win last night. They beat Alabama. They're going to be playing Arkansas later. Houston, Arizona today for the Big 12 championship. That's going to be a fun game. 2 potential number 1 seeds. Who you got there?
Ooh, I'm going to take Arizona, man.
I'll go Houston. Arizona's 1.5 point favorites, so Vegas thinks it's going to be a toss-up.
I'm gonna take Arizona. Arizona, I think, has shown all season long that they are one of the favorites and has competed really well and has run through this Big 12 basketball conference that I think. So there was a comment made by Brett Yormark on the Pat McAfee show where he said we're the second best league behind the NBA. And I have to agree with it, man. We've been talking about it all season of how great Big 12 basketball has been all year long.
Yeah.
And Arizona to run the gauntlet that they have and only lose 2 games so far, that's impressive. And they're, I think, my favorite heading into the tournament next week as the team to beat.
What's crazy is I totally agree with that statement. I agree with the depth of the Big 12 being deeper than any other conference. But of course, it's still Houston and Arizona at the top, right?
Yeah.
Like, those are the 2 teams. And I mean, for good reason. 2 very good programs. Of course, Mountain West Conference title game, Utah State, San Diego State. That's coming up at 4. We're going to have that here on the Zone. 3:30 pregame with Scotty G. That's going to be an incredibly fun game. Last, I guess, game for this conference before it gets completely torn apart by the new Pac-12. Funny enough that Utah State and San Diego State are both leaving to the Pac-12. So
Absolutely.
It's really funny that they're playing for the last conference title. But this is a great kind of back and forth between these 2 teams. Like I said earlier, this is their 5th matchup since 2019 in the basketball title game. It's split 2-2. It's incredibly close all of the time. So it's going to be a very fun matchup today for the Aggies.
I think Aggies take it, man.
Yeah?
And I think they kind of need to take it. Not only because I think it would be absolutely phenomenal for them to be able to walk out of the Mountain West Conference the final year of this version of it and kind of be the quote unquote last champion of it.
Yeah.
And to kind of take that with them, but I think that it would give them some phenomenal momentum heading into the tournament next week. And depending on how the seeding goes and depending on where they land, I would like to see Utah State have the confidence to win a game in the tournament, man. I think that would be a great story for Calhoun, whether that be his final game with Utah State or not.
Man, I hope not.
Yeah,
but we will see.
We'll see what happens.
Also coming up, Royals at Kansas City, pre-match show starting at 1:30, and then first kick at 2. That's going to be a fun one for you. And then Mammoth taking on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Need to get back on track with the win. Puck drops at 6 p.m. pregame. That's going to be on 97.5, while on 1280, RSL is going to be taking on Austin, and that's a 6:30 pregame, 7:30 first kick. So packed day here on The Zone. Don't go anywhere because we've got it for you all day.
Wall-to-wall coverage with everything that you need across the state of Utah.
Literally.
We got it.
We'll be back for you next week. Thanks for listening. And it's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.